Welcome, rare gems. You don't have to be loud to be powerful, you just have to stop needing permission. Most people don't know what to do with a woman who doesn't care to impress anyone, a woman who doesn't follow trends, who isn't trying to prove a point, who chooses peace over popularity and truth over comfort. That's a Sigma female. And, if you're reading this, there's a good chance you've been misunderstood your entire life. Not because you're confusing, but because you're not easy to control. You're not heartless. You're just done wasting energy on people who don't matter. You've seen what happens when you chase approval, and now you'd rather be alone than be fake. That doesn't make you bitter. It makes you clean. Clean from drama, clean from noise, clean from expectations that were never yours to carry. The world tells women to be softer, quieter, more agreeable, but you're not here for that. You've built your strength in silence, behind closed doors, through things no one knows you survived. Now you carry yourself differently. You don't ask for attention, you don't beg for love, you don't even explain yourself anymore. This isn't about arrogance. It's about clarity. You know what you want. You know what you're not willing to tolerate. And you've stopped apologizing for it. You're not broken. You're just awake. And once you reach this level of awareness, you don't care less out of spite. You care less because you finally know your worth. Let's dive in the rare gems. Number 1. You don't play the strong woman role. You just are. And that's exactly what makes people stop and pay attention, even if they can't explain why. You're not walking around trying to prove you're tough. You're not throwing quotes around about how independent you are, or demanding people respect you. You just live it. Every move you make says, I've seen things, I've healed from things, and I don't need to talk about it to be whole. There's no performance, no need to wear strength like a costume. You're not pretending to have it all together. You actually do have it together, even when things around you fall apart. You've been through pain that cracked you open. You've had to rebuild yourself from the ground up, piece by piece, in silence. And you didn't post about it, you just did it. People often mistake your calm for coldness. They think you don't care. But what they don't understand is that you care deeply, just not about the same things most people do. You've stopped fighting for attention or begging for space. You've created your own. You don't need someone to hand you power. You already know you have it. It's like the woman who gets passed over in a group conversation because she's not loud. But when she finally speaks, everyone listens. Not because she raised her voice, but because she carries a kind of weight that doesn't require volume. That's you. You're the one who can walk away without chaos, who doesn't need to win an argument to feel powerful, who forgives not because it's easy, but because you refuse to carry poison in your chest. This kind of strength can't be faked. You earned it the hard way, and that's why you don't need to convince anyone of it. You are the strength people try to imitate, without even realizing they're watching a masterclass in quiet power. Number 2. You're immune to trends, social rituals, and that fake pressure the world keeps trying to sell. While everyone's busy chasing the next big thing, posting every move and competing for invisible trophies, you're somewhere else, calm, grounded, and completely unbothered. You're not scrolling through your phone thinking, what's everyone else doing so I can keep up? That's not your pace, that's not your lane. You don't live on someone else's timeline. If it's not meaningful to you, it's not making it into your life. Simple as that. The world is addicted to urgency, always rushing, always shouting, you're behind. But you've figured out the truth, that most of that urgency is fake. Most of it is just noise. You're not here to race strangers on a path that doesn't even feel right in your soul. You don't buy into that pressure to get married by a certain age, land a high-status job just for the title, or post pictures just to look successful. If you want something, you go for it. But if it doesn't sit right with you, you let it go. Even if the whole world is obsessed with it. You're not afraid to say, that's not for me, even when everyone else is doing it. You've chosen a slower, more intentional life, one where peace matters more than applause, one where depth means more than display. Take, for example, how some people panic when they're not constantly achieving. They feel like if they're not seen, they don't exist. You don't think like that. You could be silent for months, working on something no one knows about, and still feel completely fulfilled. Because you're moving for you, not for the crowd. You're not in the race. You're building your own trail, quiet, steady, and honest. While they burn out trying to keep up, you're just getting started. And you wouldn't trade your path for anything. Number 3. You can tell when someone's trying to manipulate you, and you let them finish just to watch them fail. You know that moment when someone thinks they're being slick, trying to twist words or test your boundaries, thinking you can't see what they're doing. Yeah, you see it. You just don't react. You let them talk. You let them perform. You even nod a little, maybe throw in a quiet smile. But inside, you've already spotted the game. You've seen that kind of behavior before. Maybe in a toxic relationship, maybe at work, maybe in a so-called friendship. And you've learned not to waste energy on quick reactions. You're not the type to explode or argue when something feels off. You don't need to, because you already understand what's happening. You pay attention to patterns, to tone, to the way people frame their words when they're trying to push you into something that benefits them but drains you. Instead of reacting emotionally, you take mental notes. You measure everything: how often they cross the line, how they respond when you set limits, how they act when you stop giving them what they want. You don't need to call them out, you just store the information. And when it's clear the situation no longer deserves your presence, you're gone. No drama, no warning, no emotional mess. You just vanish, like a light switch flipping off, because you understand that not everyone deserves access to you. People mistake your calm for being naive, but what they don't realize is that silence is your strategy. Observation is your weapon. You don't react, you calculate. And when the time comes, your exit is so clean, so quiet, that they don't even get a chance to argue. They're just left standing there, confused and exposed. That's the kind of power they can't manipulate. That's what makes you different. You don't fight for control. You already have it. Number 4. You never chase. Not people, not things, not even closure. And that alone makes you one of the rarest kinds of women walking this earth. It's not that you don't care. It's that you've finally learned what's worth your energy and what's not. You've seen how much damage comes from chasing people who never valued you. You've felt the emptiness of running after things that were never meant for you. Now, you live by a simple rule. If it wants to go, let it go. If it wants to stay, it better come with peace, not chaos. You don't beg for clarity anymore. If someone walks away without explanation, you don't chase after an answer. You know silence is an answer too. You'd rather sit in the discomfort of not knowing than shrink yourself trying to earn someone's truth. Take relationships, for example. You've stopped texting first just to keep a dead conversation alive. You've stopped making excuses for why someone didn't show up the way they promised. And when someone leaves your life, you don't chase after them hoping they'll come back. You hold the door open, wish them well, and move on with grace. And the same goes for dreams. If an opportunity slips through your hands, you don't crumble. You trust that what's truly aligned with you won't require you to lose yourself in the process. You've built peace in your life. You protect it like gold. And anyone or anything that threatens it, you don't argue, you don't fight, you simply step back. You're not cold, you're clear, you're not heartless, you're healed. And that's why you don't chase. Because what's meant for you will never require you to run after it with your soul in pieces. You've learned to stay still and let what's real find you. Number 5. You don't argue to win. You don't raise your voice just to prove a point. You don't go back and forth trying to be the loudest or the last one standing. Why? Because you've learned something most people haven't, that some battles are beneath you. You've realized that not every conversation needs a response and not every fool deserves a debate. If someone is committed to misunderstanding you, no amount of explaining will help. They've already made up their mind, and that's fine. Let them. Instead of wasting your energy trying to fix their perception, you let them sit in it. You let them drown in their own delusions while you protect your peace. Because at the end of the day, your truth doesn't need approval to be real. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from a pointless argument and felt relieved? That relief is your spirit thanking you for not stepping into a mental tug-of-war with someone who only wanted to win, not understand. You've been in those moments. Someone tries to twist your words, make you look irrational, bait you into defending your character, and you could have responded. You could have destroyed them with facts, but instead, you just smiled, maybe said okay, and moved on. Not because you were weak, but because you were wise. People like that, they expose themselves over time. You don't need to do anything. You just have to step back and let the truth come out without your help. That's the real power. When you stop explaining yourself to people who've already made up stories in their head, you gain peace. And when you stop trying to correct ignorance, you gain freedom. You don't argue to win. You live in a way that makes arguing unnecessary. You let your growth speak for you. You let your boundaries speak louder, and you let their confusion stay theirs, where it belongs. Number 6. You're willing to be the villain in someone else's story if it means staying the hero in your own. And that right there is a level of self-respect most people never reach. See, you've figured out that not everyone is going to like the real you. Some people only stick around when you're convenient, agreeable, or easy to control. The moment you set a boundary, say no or choose yourself, they flip the script. Suddenly, you're too distant, too cold, or not who you used to be. And instead of bending to fit their expectations, you let them talk. Let them twist the narrative. Let them call you difficult. Because you know what they're really saying is you stopped being who I could manipulate. You've accepted a hard truth. Being authentic comes with a cost. And that cost is often relationships that were only built on your silence, your compliance, your self-abandonment. But you're not in the business of betraying yourself just to make other people comfortable anymore. Take friendships, for example. Maybe you stopped being the one who always called first. Maybe you stopped pretending you were okay with being the emotional dumping ground. And when you pulled back, they blamed you for the distance. You didn't fight it. You didn't explain yourself in a long message. You just let it go. That's the strength you carry now. You're no longer afraid of disappointing people if it means staying true to your path. You know who you are. And if that makes someone uncomfortable, you let them be uncomfortable without sacrificing your peace. At this point, you'd rather walk alone in truth than be surrounded by people who only love the version of you that keeps them happy. You're done performing. You're done shrinking. And if that makes you the villain in their eyes, so be it. You're not here to be understood by everyone. You're here to be honest with yourself. That's real freedom. Number 7. You don't care to be followed. You're not out here trying to build a crowd or gather a fan base. You're not dropping breadcrumbs so people can trail behind you. Why? Because you're not leading anyone but yourself. You're not interested in being seen as a leader. You don't crave the title. You don't need the attention. Leadership to you is not about being in front. It's about being free. Free to make your own choices. Free to move how you want without anyone watching your every step or expecting you to carry them with you. Influence doesn't tempt you. In fact, the idea of being responsible for what others do or think feels more like a cage than a crown. You've seen what happens to people who get addicted to being followed. They stop being real. They start performing, and they slowly lose themselves trying to maintain an image. You're not doing that. You've worked too hard to find your voice, to ever let it get drowned out by applause. You're not trying to inspire anyone, but somehow people still get inspired by the way you move. That's the irony. You live for you, quietly, intentionally, without a spotlight, and people can't help but watch. But that's not the point. It never was. You don't want followers. You want space. You want the freedom to change your mind, the freedom to disappear and reappear, the freedom to grow without having to explain it. Everything else, the influence, the admiration, the recognition, that's all background noise. It might impress others, but it doesn't move you. You're not chasing influence. You're chasing peace. And in a world full of people trying to lead or be led, your ability to walk alone with clarity is exactly what makes you powerful. You're not building a following. You're building a life. Number 8. You have absolutely zero interest in competing where the prize is attention. That whole scene, where people fight to be seen, constantly trying to outshine each other, it doesn't move you. In fact, it kind of turns you off. You're not interested in being the most talked about. You don't want to be the loudest voice in the room or the flashiest presence on social media. If the game is about who can get the most likes, the most compliments, or the most followers, you'd honestly rather sit that one out. You've seen how exhausting it is, people burning themselves out just to stay relevant, doing things they don't even believe in, just to stay visible. You'd rather be invisible than inauthentic. You'd rather be at peace than be praised. For you, value isn't measured by how many eyes are on you. It's measured by how deeply rooted you are in your truth. And truth doesn't need an audience. You're the type who quietly excels without announcing it. You grow behind the scenes, you evolve in silence, and when you do show up, it's not for attention. It's because you have something real to offer. Take relationships, for example. While others are playing mind games or doing the most to appear desirable, you're not even in the race. You're not performing. You're not trying to win anyone. If someone sees you and connects with you as you are, great. If not, you keep it moving. No bitterness, no loss. That's what sets you apart. You don't crave the spotlight. You crave substance. And if that means being underestimated or overlooked by people who only value noise, you're perfectly okay with that. Because you're not playing for attention. You're living for meaning. And that's a game most people don't even know how to play. Number 9. You don't flinch when someone pulls away. Truth is, you barely noticed they were there to begin with. And that's not because you're heartless or numb. It's because you never cling to people to feel whole. You don't wrap your worth around someone's presence. You don't hand over your peace in exchange for temporary company. You've reached a point where you can love people deeply and still be okay if they leave. That's real strength. That's emotional independence. And it's rare. You've learned that holding someone emotionally hostage never makes them stay. It just builds resentment. So now, when someone starts pulling away, your first instinct isn't to chase. It's to step back and make room. You don't beg. You don't plead. You don't perform. You simply acknowledge the shift and let it be what it is. Take friendships, for example. There was a time when someone fading from your life would have sent you into a spiral. You'd replay conversations, try to fix what you didn't break, try to hold it together by force, but not anymore. Now if they drift, they drift. If they choose distance, you give them space without guilt or drama, because you understand something powerful now. If someone wants to go, you don't just let them. You hold the door open wider, not as a punishment, not as a power move, but because your life is built on peace, not possession. You don't chase people, you attract alignment. And if they weren't really present in the first place, their absence won't shake you. That kind of self-trust is what keeps you grounded. That quiet confidence that says, if someone truly belongs in my life, I won't have to grip them to keep them there. You don't flinch, you don't panic, you simply return to your peace, the place where you've always belonged, with or without them. Number 10. You only reveal about 10% of what you know, and that's on purpose. People assume you're quiet because you don't have much to say, but that's the trap. What they don't realize is that you're watching everything, picking up on details they miss, calculating your next move while they're still trying to impress the room. Being underestimated isn't something you fear, it's something you use. It gives you room to move without resistance. While others are busy trying to show off what they know, you're stacking information, waiting for the right moment to strike with precision. Your silence? It's not emptiness. It's not awkwardness. It's not uncertainty. It's strategy. You're not the type to speak just to fill a void. You don't waste words trying to sound smart or be heard. If you say something, it's because it matters. It serves a purpose. It moves the mission forward. Take work, for example. You've probably been in rooms where people underestimated your insight because you weren't the loudest voice at the table. Then one day you speak, and it's sharp, unexpected, undeniable. You leave people wondering how they didn't see it sooner. That's not luck, that's control. Or in relationships, where someone might assume your quiet nature means you're passive, until they try to play games and you shut it down without ever raising your voice. You don't warn, you just act. You don't chase, you just disappear. That's your power. You don't need to be loud to be dangerous. You don't need to be seen to be effective. You're not hiding. You're protecting your peace, protecting your plan, protecting your energy from people who don't deserve access to the full picture. Because the less they know, the safer you move. And when you finally make your move, it speaks louder than anything you could have said. Number 11. You don't argue just to prove you're right. You don't get pulled into petty debates or back and forths that lead nowhere. Not because you're afraid of conflict, but because you've learned to protect your energy like it's sacred. Because it is. You see, your energy isn't something you give away freely. It's not up for grabs. It's not available for every disagreement, every opinion, or every person trying to drag you into a pointless exchange. You've realized that not every conversation deserves your voice and not every challenge is worth the fight. You can tell when a conversation is dead on arrival. You know the signs. Someone isn't listening. They just want to be right. They don't seek clarity, they seek control. They don't care what you think, they just want to push your buttons. And you don't flinch, you don't take the bait, you simply exit the conversation mentally before they even realize you've checked out. It's not silence from weakness, it's silence from wisdom. You've reached a level where you don't argue for sport and you don't debate to be seen. If someone isn't speaking from a place of respect or real curiosity, you're gone. No explanation, no closure, just distance. Imagine someone trying to pull you into a heated argument online or in person, throwing sarcasm, provoking you, expecting you to match their chaos. And instead you give them nothing, just calm, just presence, maybe even a little smile. Because you know exactly what they're doing. And it doesn't work on you. You don't avoid conflict. You just don't waste time on noise. You'd rather have one solid conversation that shifts something real than 10 empty ones that drain your soul. That's not avoidance. That's clarity. That's elevation. Because when you start treating your energy like the sacred currency it is, you stop handing it out to every person who comes knocking. You don't engage. You don't react. You rise, quietly, cleanly, and on your own terms. Number 12. You're not shaken by rejection. Not even a little. Why? Because long before anyone had the chance to choose you or walk away from you, you already chose yourself. You've done the inner work. You've sat with your flaws, your scars, your gifts, your weirdness, all of it. And instead of trying to trade parts of yourself for approval, you decided to keep it all. You looked at the mirror and thought, I'm enough, whether anyone sees it or not. That kind of self-acceptance changes everything. It makes rejection lose its sting. Because now when someone doesn't pick you for a job, a relationship, a friendship, whatever, you don't spiral. You don't beg for answers. You don't start questioning your worth. You understand that not being chosen isn't a reflection of your value. It's just a redirection. You're not in the business of convincing anyone to see your light. If they don't, they're simply not meant to walk your path. And you don't lose sleep over that. You trust that what's meant for you will feel right. It won't have to be chased, begged for, or explained. Think about all the moments in the past when you took rejection personally, when you twisted yourself into knots trying to understand why someone didn't want you. That version of you is long gone. Now, if someone walks, you don't take it as an insult. You take it as a blessing, a filter, a clearing. Because truthfully, you're not here to be picked like a prize on a shelf. You are the prize, not in a loud look-at-me kind of way, but in a steady, grounded way, the kind that doesn't ask for attention but commands respect. You picked yourself a long time ago, and that decision still stands. You never looked back, and you never needed to. In final words, peace is expensive. That's why so many people settle for noise. If you see yourself in these signs, you're not broken. You're not hard to love. You're simply someone who has chosen clarity over chaos, substance over popularity, and peace over performance. That's not a weakness. That's rare strength. You're a Sigma female because you've stopped trying to be understood by people who never took the time to really know you. You've outgrown spaces where you had to explain your silence, your boundaries, your vision. And now you're walking a path where the only validation you need is your own. You don't need to be followed to feel powerful. You don't need to win arguments to feel heard. You don't need applause to know you're enough. While the world shouts, performs, and competes for attention, you stay rooted, observing, moving with purpose, choosing peace every time. And here's the truth. That kind of self-respect makes people uncomfortable. They'll call you distant. They'll say you don't care. But that's only because they've never seen someone so free they don't have to prove anything. So keep being unbothered. Keep choosing silence when others expect chaos. Keep protecting your peace like it's sacred, because it is. You're not here to fit in. You're not here to be easy to digest. You're here to live with intention, to move with meaning, and to never apologize for needing depth in a world that loves the shallow end. Let them talk. Let them assume. You've got better things to do, like building a life that doesn't crumble when people leave or misunderstand you. That's what makes you a Sigma, not because you care less out of spite, but because you care more about the things that truly matter. Thank you for watching The Rare Gems, and God bless you.